Paul, I gotta ask, in an industry of putting great people to work in great opportunities, in an industry that's built around that framework, why does a black hole in the application process exist?
Most of it, Brad, revolves, I think, around, well, I think I can separate this in two different mindsets, right? One mindset is the third party recruiter. The other mindset is that internal recruiter. The third party recruiter is pretty easy, right? Third party recruiter does not get paid until they get a placement done. So they're going to go to the applicants that they can move forward quickly, and the rest of them get left in the dust, right? It's unfortunate and it is true. And there's so many elements of the industry today that are so broken in that facet because what's driving those recruiters or the way that they actually even get to keep their jobs is that fulfillment. And they're putting whoever will go forward as the applicant to see if they can get it filled. So we miss a ton of great applicants in that space. Internally, it's a little different. Some of the very similar pressures that exist there, right? If I'm an internal recruiter, I have a pipeline. I have to make sure that I'm driving that pipeline, getting them to work. And those candidates that are communicating with me, that are moving through the process, those are the ones I'm going to push forward. Sometimes the very best applicants are trailers, right? They're in a current role. They're not as ambitious to be able to jump on a phone call with you because they can't get the timing to work, and they'll get missed. So there's a lot of these threads that the speed element, it becomes a really big part of the problem. It's kind of silly, right? The black hole exists because of those human elements, but there's also a digital element that exists there too. And I know, Brad, we can double click on this for like 2 hours, right? And it's like how the digital element impacts that black hole as well, right? The digital element or that algorithm that everybody experiences is this design is, unfortunately, it's screening people out and not screening people in. So it's pushing through thousands and thousands of applicants to get to those that don't qualify versus to find those that do qualify. And that black hole element there is, if I'm a discarded candidate, why burn the time, right?
Walk me through that. Why are we screening people out instead of screening them in?
Well, a couple of things. So I'll talk through a few different things. If you go out into a typical application process like in LinkedIn or Indeed, right? Believe it or not, first 50 applicants are the applicants that make it through the system. The rest of them, they'll actually close the requisition and stop, right? So they'll stop pulling applications in. And on average right now, LinkedIn is pushing 9,000 applicants a minute through its system. So you can imagine how quickly that'll fill up. So the screening them out is coming from the fact that they simply are shutting off the requisition, and that's that, right? They don't look at the rest of the applicants. They just drop them out of the system. I can give you a story. I'll leave the story for a few minutes later here, but I think those are the things that I look at, is that digital algorithm doesn't get a chance to do its job because they close them so quickly. And unfortunately it's there. And I think if you look inside that algorithm as well, the algorithm is only as good as it's been developed. And if you don't have the right attributes from the hiring managers, if you haven't put the right skill sets in there, you don't have all of the exact right pieces to it, you won't pick them up. And that's a problem. And there is this real push, and it's happened over the last 12 or 18 months. There's a real push to take the human being out. Why? It's cheaper, right? It's faster. It's better. It's all of those things. And I think keeping at least a backstop of a human being in there is part of the solution process going forward. The digital element it's great. It should enable, but it shouldn't replace at the end of the day.
I agree. I think AI, technology, digital means should be able to amplify the role of the recruiter, should be able to amplify the role of the salesperson, not necessarily replace. Why then are we going the other way with it? I know you said it's cheaper, right? Certainly if I don't have to pay a salary anymore, or multiple salaries, in some cases, like some of the big tech players, thousands of salaries, then yeah, it's certainly cheaper. But if the product output that we're getting is subpar, why would we still then venture down that path?
Because it's good enough, unfortunately, right?
Yeah,
There's
you're
a
right.
speed element, right?
Yeah.
This speed thing is a big deal, right?
Mhm.
Because if you look at any KPI right now, whether it's in an MSP system, whether it's in a direct talent acquisition strategy, there's a speed to execution, and it's all about time to hire, right? From the time the requisition got created through all of these little metrics that get down to the bottom of it that says, hey, it took me X amount of time to get that person in place. That speed right now is a requirement because you're trying to capture talent, trying to get them in place, and trying to get work done. Now, unfortunately, it gets lost. Again, I can leave that part out for a moment
Yeah.
because how it gets lost is another dialogue for sure.
It's interesting though because we're then painting data that puts us in a positive light for the client, but it's at the expense of a negative experience for the candidate, right? So
Exactly.
so we know in a recent Bullhorn report, their grid talent report, they had said that communication is one of the biggest challenges that candidates have with staffing and recruiting firms. So if communication is one of the biggest challenges that candidates are seeing and experiencing, certainly we have the technology that makes time to fill go down because we're helping screen people out. But on the back end of that, then the candidates are frustrated because, well, we're only communicating with X number of, a small fraction of the people that apply to the role. So it's almost like you're pleasing one to potentially frustrate the other.
Yes. And I think you boil it down to, I think, the very simplistic format of we have to go back to a space where we think about the two most important personas in this whole equation, the talent and the hiring manager. When we think about those individuals, right, and we think about what they actually need, uh, the residual impact of paying attention to those two personas in the way that we should will reduce time to fill. Will fulfill those KPIs the way they're supposed to. Think about it. What does the talent want? They want a job, right? And they want to know during the process of getting that job, what's their propensity to get it? And I'm on it. Am I off it? Right? If I'm on it, great. I'll keep moving with you. If I'm off it, then I'm going to move on to my next. Just let me know
Mm-hmm.
that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hiring manager. Now, a lot of people say hiring manager needs to fill the job. I'm going to qualify that in a little bit different way. Hiring manager needs to get work done, right? They've got to get something done. How they get it done, they don't necessarily care, right? They just need somebody that has a talent and they want to get it executed. So they'll look at it differently. So if you think about the process of matching those two people together, there's a natural outcome. Talent wants to do the work. Hiring manager needs to make it happen. Just focus on bringing those together. The KPIs will mix and match correctly through the course of that activity. And if you put that into a reoccurring process flow and you let it be informed by the organization, by the hiring manager, by the talent, things will begin to straighten out relatively quickly.
So how do we fix this?
Well,
Can
there's a
we
couple
fix
of
it?
things. It's not old or it's not new, Brad. It's been around a long time, right? I mean, this black hole thing has been around since the time that we shoved resumes into envelopes and sent them on their way. Now, there was a
Yeah.
reason, right? There
Yeah.
was a reason why you didn't get a response on a resume when you subbed it into an envelope is because you just couldn't get it done, right? There was too many resumes to respond to. And it was just, sorry for your luck if you didn't get a response, but that was normal. And I think it set a precedence in this whole thing. And I do think as you look through this, AI or HR tech enablement can be the solution to this if it's done and done well. Paying attention to the talent experience. Again, I could echo to anybody that's in the staffing world today. If you're paying attention to that experience, remember that's what you're selling. You're selling the experience and you're selling the output to the hiring manager, but you're selling that experience. That is creating your shelf of product, right? If you watch that experience and you just go listen to them for a while. If Bob Jones is putting an application in for an engineering manager role, listen to Bob, understand the Bobs of the world. What happens inside this process? We got your application. You're
Mm-hmm.
qualified or you're not. There's step one, right? And then from that application that you're qualified for, here's your next step. And it's going to be on this time frame. Don't let the time frame be too long. You execute that time frame, feedback from there. By the way, the hiring manager loved this, this, and this, didn't like that, that, and that. Okay, great. And yes, we have to be careful of some of the HR rules that sit in all of those spaces, but that's easy enough to be able to navigate. But you've already said the word communication. And I think that that's one of the key threads that are there. These folks just want to understand where they stand in the process.
Yeah, I liken it to I think it's a good example, but Domino's, right? Domino's a while ago had the pizza tracker. You know when you ordered a pizza, you know when they were putting it in the oven, you know when they were going to box it up, and you knew when it was going to be delivered. And now with things like Grubhub or Uber Eats, you know how far away that driver is from your house, right? So they take it to the next level. At that point, it was just, okay, well, it's in the car and it'll be there in a few minutes. Now, I will admit I DoorDash way too much. My wife and I DoorDash way too much food, but I know exactly when that cheeseburger is going to show up. I know what red light the driver's at. I get worried if the car starts pointing in the wrong direction. Did he get lost? Well, how do you get turned around on Sheridan Drive? What happened here? And it's so interesting that now we expect that in every single phase of our life. And I've said on the show before, Amazon has a way of screwing things up for all of us because of the speed that we have of delivery, because of the way that we have transparency in the delivery process with something like Uber Eats or getting a car on Uber, right? We have that transparency that now we expect it in all areas of our life, especially in something as sensitive as finding your next job opportunity. Right.
Yes.
If you think about how sensitive it is and how important a job is to somebody, not knowing where you stand in the process is incredibly disheartening. And I think we owe it to the candidate to get this right because we owe it as human beings to get it right.
Agreed. There's just, if you think about this whole thing, okay, a couple of things. One of the most stressful elements in someone's life, two of them basically, it's getting a new house and finding a job, right? Those are the two big stressors that are in your world. Getting a new house, we'll leave that alone, but getting a new job, to your point, if I can think of all of the things that are pushing on this, right? You've got a spouse or a partner, you've got friends, you've got all of these people that are saying, hey, you applied for that. What's the deal? And you're repeating it again and again. I don't know. I'm waiting for this and I'm waiting for that. But there's so many of these little elements that could remove some of those stress levels just by giving them the proper feedback and communication. I agree that we are being over communicated with today. Some of the younger folks would disagree, right? But I'm like, if we think about it, it is really important in the application process to be able to get where we're going. Are we on? Are we off? That is a requirement. That is an expectation of a talent today, regardless of their age anymore, right? They want to know, where am I? And am I spending my time wisely or am I wasting it?
Yeah, and I'm thinking through, certainly it's a timing issue, right? If a recruiter gets 1,000 applications, you can't call everybody. And then we need to have tech in place. We need to have systems in place that help with that. We need to have whatever tool it might be in place that can help expedite that process. But the tool should be screening people in and not out. And Paul, to your point, as we started the conversation, if that tool is then only elevating the 17 out of 1,000 people who are worth a conversation, what's happening to the chunk of other people who are now waiting for a response? And are we using technology or are we using automations to at least help them create some sort of system where it's giving somebody some sort of feedback to tell them what it takes to get to the top 17? Maybe not as directly, but I think you get what I'm going with.
Yeah. And I would say up until recently, there's been a lot of noise in the industry about talent pooling, right? Direct
Yeah.
sourcing, however you want to call it, but
Yeah.
pooling talent. And essentially pooling talent up until, I don't know, 24 months ago, give or take, was just that. It was a repository of talent that we knew who they were, what they could do, but we didn't know much about them, right? We didn't understand and we didn't curate to them. We didn't say, hey, Brad, we love this skill set. You match with this kind of profile, and we see these profiles get picked off, in these time frames. So it's again curating to that group of folks in the pool. But if you go backwards just a little bit to your statement, you get 1,000 candidates, 17 are there. So we've got 983 talent that we've all paid a ton of money for to get, right? We
Right.
looked so hard for these people, but we just pass them off. Why? Because they're not filling the job that we get paid for. What's happening in the industry, and there are several great organizations out there right now that are starting to perfect this concept of pooling talent or curating talent into a viable digital talent pool where they are organized and structured by geography, by skill set, by the ability what they can execute or not execute. They're being vetted. So imagine if you're a talent and you're looking for a job and you're in this space where it's gray, but you're going through a vetting process that's helping you perfect who am I, what can I do, and who can I do it for, right? So those things are happening. On the backside of that, organizations are able to speak into that talent pool by, let's go get Bob Jones from the engineering department to, you know, call out the EVP for the organization so they understand, hey, this is what it's like to work at ABC company. So
Mhm.
that digital element is happening today, and it's getting better and better and better. What we have to do though is we have to get better at the execution of those. So we still have a stack of people. We know who they are. We know where they are. We know how much they'll make. We have a propensity of if they would take the job or not take the job. We work really hard to keep them warm. We spend a lot of time, energy, and money to make those things happen. Hiring managers and organizations as a whole need to get to that prediction, right? Say, okay, let's get a 12 to 18-month window to
Mhm.
understand what talent we are going to need. So then you're crafting your talent pool in the proper layers, right? You've got your first layer, which are immediate placements. Your second layer are the 3 to 6 month placements, and then there's that third layer is like, hey, they'd be a great fit for the organization. Nothing for them today, but how do I trigger them in
Yeah.
the near term future? All of that stuff is available now by technology. Those are simple triggers inside of a piece of HR tech. Simple. The engineers would be mad at me for saying that, but I'm a layman, so let's continue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, really quick. Usually, this is where I talk about one of Haley Marketing Services. But today, our co CEO, David, asked me to make a very specific offer exclusive to listeners of Take the Stage and Insights. Candidly, I think he's a little crazy, but here we go. He told me I could offer a $10,000 staffing website for half. That includes one of our proven starter sites, fully customized for your firm, brand new copy, our career portal software, and foundational SEO, all for 2 payments of $2,500, plus hosting and licensing. I gotta be honest, the reason he's doing this, he wants me to prove people are actually listening to this show. So if you're thinking about a new website, message me on LinkedIn and mention the crazy website promo from Take the Stage or Insights. One catch, it's limited to the first 7 staffing firms. So don't wait. All right, let's get back to the show.
It's so interesting to me. The more I sit here and I think about just putting good people to work and good opportunities and what makes the industry so great, it's not that we lost our way, because I don't think that's the case at all. And I don't want to sit here and say that we have, but I mean, the industry exists fundamentally to help. And if we are only screening in a certain threshold of people and we're not building that pool and we're not building that, I guess, bucket of other individuals that we can help at some time, and we're not really serving our purpose here. We're not really serving our mission as an industry.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly some in the industry today that are just kind of spinning their wheels on these types of things, but there are many in the industry that earnestly are looking at it saying there is a better way, right? There's a better way to execute. And there are some, and this is where I start to align to, there's some that are starting to look at it from a completely different perspective. The screening in versus out begins to change a mindset, because if I start thinking about, if I'm an organization that wants to consume people, if I start to drop my borders and I start looking at FTE equivalent jobs as
Mhm.
87 different tasks to be executed anywhere in the world because of all the remote things, now I need a piece of technology that's helping me sort that out, right? Then I need a human being in the background to smooth out the edges, or I always call it, the net to catch whatever is falling out incorrectly, right? There's a whole layer of engagement that we have to start thinking about, and that's this generation that's coming. If you think about the generation that's coming, they spend less than 2 years as an FTE somewhere. Their preference is the flexibility to do what they want, to control their destiny, to do work, to execute things, right? Not just go to work every single day and punch in, punch out, do work like that. So if we drop our borders, we use technology, we elevate it through human intervention, and we start taking those individuals and putting them on these different contractual jobs or statement of work roles or whatever the case is, we'll start to see another layer come to life. So there's been such a focus for the last 3 decades, right, on finding an FTE or a temporary.
Mhm.
Now that's starting to erase, right? We're starting to erase that line, and it's starting to merge into something different and unique. And it's all about, I got a project to do. I'm going to get you on, get you off, and be done. So there's a lot there, and there's a lot of tiger by the tail. There's a lot of what we would call legacy spend in that space that is going to be resistant because it was easy to get a contract executed. Now, a lot of people
Mhm.
say, no, that's not true, Paul. It's not that easy, but it's a lot easier sometimes just to get 1 or 2 people across the finish line than it is a whole segment of people, right? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there's no visibility to it or anything like that. So there's this yin and yang push against that, the ease and simplicity of being able to get on contract. But I do think that there's a time that's coming very, very soon where this HR enabled tech is going to make it very, very simple for a contract style employee to onboard, execute a set of skills, offboard, move on to the next. And it'll be something that we're really intrigued to see, like, how they control their own destinies. It's starting to be talent by talent. There's no organization that owns anybody anymore.
Yep.
It's just a unique attribute. So
Paul, you mentioned you had a story for us. I don't want you to think I forgot about that, but a little while ago, you mentioned you had a story for us in a few minutes. And
yeah,
I want to gather around, get my popcorn here, and hear what that story might be.
yeah. Well, Brad, I told you this. I am, as of April, my role was eliminated as Chief Solutions Officer. And I've been in the process of looking for a job. And I've taken everybody's advice and taken my own advice. And I said, hey, you got to work inside of these pieces of HR tech in order to be able to get a job, right? Now, a lot of people are going to disagree with me because they all have gone through the same experience that I have. But I'll tell you this is that I did some research before I jumped on here, and I have about 181 applications that I did on LinkedIn and just over 100 on Indeed over the past 4 or 5 months, right? Submitted every single one of those. And I'm going to qualify a couple of things. When I mean submitted, I didn't take my own resume, just drop it over there and said, see what happens, right? A couple of them were easy applies, but most of them were very specific, a long application process. So what I was doing, again, taking my own advice, I took my resume, I took the job description, I put it in Chat GPT, and I said, give me an ATS friendly resume that reflects all of the skills and keywords. I said, fill my margins with white words so I can go from 30 or 40 match words to over 100, maybe 150 match words, right? And I submitted that. I even crafted a cover letter and the whole shebang. And this is not an exaggeration. In all of those applications, over 300 applications, I've received zero responses that were positive. All of them, every single one said, you're not qualified. Now I'll even push this even further. Like, well, Paul, you're a schmuck then because your resume is not very good. I've had that thing rewritten 10, 12 times, right? But you keep threading this thing through and you look at it, and I actually went out and I found there was 1 or 2 jobs that were almost identical to the role that I had
Mhm.
previously as Chief Solutions Officer. So I took those roles, took my resume, rewrote them, submitted them. Still no response at all. Nothing. Ghosted. Quite nothing. As a skill talent that should have been able to at least get a phone call from that, I got nothing. So these are the things that I keep looking at, right? It's like no matter how hard you're working these things, the digital stuff has to get better, right? And if anybody's out there listening, the way you actually get a job today is the old school way. You know somebody, you find an application that pops up, you reach out to somebody that you connect all of the elements, and then you get the interview. Tech has to start to duplicate that somehow. Got to bring that stuff to the forefront. Otherwise, it's just
Yeah.
not going to. Yeah.
So the interesting side of that is, we at Haley Marketing work with hundreds of staffing and recruiting firms, right? And I hear often, we want more applications, we want more applies, we want more people to funnel into the top of the funnel so that we can find the right person. The the interesting part of what I'm hearing, though, Paul, from you specifically is, you are the applicant. You've applied to about 300 jobs with zero callbacks, with zero positive messaging, with zero secondary conversations. And I'm going to generalize that to just the job seeker. That's incredibly disheartening, right? And when you
Sure.
think about while you're going through this job search process, we as an industry should fundamentally exist to help coach, again, I'll say you specifically, but coach the job seeker who is applying into, okay, well, if there is something wrong on this one sheet, what is it? Let's at least have a conversation. Let me articulate what it is on this one sheet. But let me tell you about my track record. Let me give you my war stories. Let me tell you what it is that I know and at least have that chance to do so. And if the tech that is in front of the recruiter is not enabling those conversations, then we are falling short of the mark in my mind.
100%. And I could echo this to any recruiter that's out there today. Your sentiments are spot on. Take the opportunity. Every application you get fits somewhere. Learn what it's all about. Figure it out, right? And take the extra time to sort it out. Yes, there are a lot of applications that don't fit. 75% of the applications that come against most of the job are Hail Marys, right? But what about the 25% that aren't? Spend time there. Figure it out, right? Have the conversation. Let your algorithm go. I mean, just all of these things are things that are there. And it's something that I think you think about as well. Third-party recruiters listen closely, right? Remember what you get paid to do? That's put people to work, right? Go grab somebody, figure out who they are. Where's my champion, right? Not one recruiter right now is like, hey, I'll be with you in the long run. It's only if they have a job today are they interested in talking to me. To me,
And
that's
that to me is sort of not legacy thinking, not backwards thinking, but if you have somebody if you're an agent, right? If you have a stud quarterback and you're their agent, you should be shopping them everywhere and saying, listen, here's what I can get for this quarterback because this quarterback's not going to be here this time next year or, this time next week, rather. Sorry. A sports agent works for the talent that they represent. In my mind, that is where the industry could excel. It's finding talent, finding the people that are applying, weeding through the applications, weeding through all of the noise, and finding those people and skill marketing them to get them the roles at organizations where they then want to be working with. So you're sort of creating the demand for the person by saying, listen, I know you might not have the role open on your job right now, whatever, you don't have the role available, but I represent this person. They're exceptional at A, B, and C. I know your company would thrive with those skills in this infrastructure, in this space. Let's have this conversation. And again, to your point, you're putting great people to work in great opportunities. You have the harmony between the two. But we need to have that conversation. And if we're not having the open lines of communication because we're trying to find the easy button with AI and automation and technology, then we as an industry are failing.
That's right. I agree. AI and automation is not always the 100% answer. The enablement of a human being to be better, stronger, faster at what they do is great. To be better, stronger, and faster, right?
Yeah.
Those are elements that we need to inform the AI a little bit more, right? It needs to be able to understand what we're actually trying to accomplish. Because that's what we do for a living. We find good people, and the tech should help us do that.
Yeah, I'm sort of sitting back and thinking about the speed comment that you made, right? So at the end of the day, if we have 100 applies, we have the one candidate that's going off to get that role because speed wins, right? Whatever it might be. But there's 99 other people that we should be talking to, we should be communicating with. We should at least be vetting through some sort of process, whether that's human tech, human-enabled tech, tech-enabled human, whatever, however you want to spin that. But those are still people that are people. And that, again, to me, is what makes the industry great. And as we move towards this AI-centric world where we're trying to move faster and trying to do things more expedited, I hope we don't lose our vision there.
100%. I mean, you could have all kinds of analogies here, but the 99 are almost more important than the one, right? From a speed perspective, that's where you gain speed, is in those 99, not in one. right?
What do you mean by that?
When you understand who those 99 people are, where they can go, what they can do, what's their propensity if they're doing it, when will they do it, how much will they cost, all of those things. Are we not starting to answer the hiring manager's question? Like, how do I get work done? Well, these 99 are vetted. We understand who they are. That's our first go-to. If you want speed to execution, it's right there. There's a statistic that we found in some of these technologies that are out there is that those people in a talent pool are responding to a message sent to them in 17 minutes or less. 17 minutes or less versus days. 17 minutes, and a hiring manager could know if they have 2 people in the pipeline or 220 or 200 or whatever the case is. Those are the things that's tech enabled that makes sense, right? That you can say, Bob Jones is engaged. 17 minutes ago, I got a message from them. Think about any recruiter that's out there. Like, if I knew somebody was 17 minutes ago, I'm on them, right?
Mhm.
That's speed. That's speed. Yeah.
Hey, a quick pause before we get back to the show, because this is something every staffing leader needs to hear. Most staffing firms are spending a lot on benefits and still only covering about half of their workforce. That's exactly why I like what my friends at Benefits in a Card are doing. Instead of forcing owners into expensive, bundled health plans, they offer unbundled benefits designed for high turnover workforces. Things like free prescriptions through their free RX program, dental, vision, virtual urgent care, and supplemental coverage with no deductibles. The result? You can offer benefits to 100% of your workforce, control costs, and actually improve retention. If benefits have felt like a losing game, check out my friends at benefitsinacard.com and schedule a quick unbundled benefits review. Again, that's benefitsinacard.com. All right, let's get back to the show.
So where do we go from here, Paul? Right, I think you and I, it's a good entry level into the conversation of at least pointing light to something that is a presumable, it's a challenge and it's an issue in the industry. So if you sort of had the crystal ball and you could look at 3 years from now or maybe even 3 months from now, where does the industry go knowing all of this information?
Well, I mean, I work with a customer today. I'm doing some fractional work in the background, and this is an HR tech piece of equipment, and they've done a couple of things. I want to be careful that I don't let any names out or tactics out here. So let me walk the line with you a little bit, Brad. But at the end of the day, what they've done is that they have built inside of their skills evaluation, not necessarily saying inside their algorithm. Their algorithm is the trigger for a lot of these things, but they've actually built in data sets where they've gone out to a large data set of that same, it's an engineering style of talent, right? They can look at that engineer's code through the sources in which they've been in their past, and they can qualify their code. So my point of all that is that when you're vetting a talent, really vet them and understand from the world where they come from, what does good look like, and bring that into where your tech is at, right? Let the hiring manager inform that. We have lost that voice in our process. You look at any MSP program today, the hiring manager's voice is so quiet. It needs to be the loudest one in the room. They need to be able to say, I need this done, and here are the skill sets that I need it to be. Let the algorithm tease it out even more, right? It's like, what do you mean by that? You ask these questions. What do you mean by that process? What do you mean by this skill set? What do you mean to get it very, very specific? So I think if HR tech is going to enable us to do what we want to do, we need to inform it, right? And we need to give it all the texture that it needs and not let it be so generic. I think that'll help, right? I think keeping people in the process of these stopgaps and they keep the human element going. We cannot remove the word human from human resources. Can't. It just doesn't work. As a human being, you need that engagement from another individual in order to feel comfortable to move forward, right? And I think I want to say this with the best intentions, but as a recruiter, maintain your reputation, your integrity, right? Work in an honest format. Work to make sure that you're authentic with people, you're transparent with them. It will pay dividends. And if you think about that, there's a skill set that's coming in that space, right? That integrity of the authenticity of an individual. Yeah, as a recruiter, those talent will respond to that. and your 17 minutes is going to go down to 7 minutes because they're waiting for you. They're waiting for you.
I think that is one of the biggest opportunities for the industry right now is having I hate the phrase personal brand, but I think it's the easiest way to articulate it, is having a true, authentic, reputable personal brand that applicants and candidates want to work with you and that clients and prospects want to call you. It's having the authenticity, the transparency, it's having the knowledge about the specific space that you're in so that people are coming to you, not necessarily you going to them. Yes, we're never going to get rid of the hunt of recruiting. But if you have a reputable, I have yet to find a better phrase than personal brand just because it's relatable on a podcast, but personal brand that people want to work with you. They want to work with Brad because they know Brad's going to go to war for them, right? As a recruiter, I want somebody, right? I'm just saying, using myself as an example. I want to work with Brad because I know he's going to find me the best opportunity for the skills that I have. And if the skills aren't lined up with the open opportunities that he's currently working on, I'm still going to stay in his corner because he's going to work with me through that.
He'll go find one. He'll go find
exactly it. Right. Exactly right. And I think that's where there's this sort of shift in the space is, okay, do we take that route or do we go completely AI and automated and robotic? And I don't believe that's the answer. I love the human approach of recruiting as well, because I think at the end of the day, that's what candidates are looking for. It's having that voice. It's having that stake in the game. It's being that sports agent. And it's saying, listen, I'm going to find you the best opportunity and the best team based on your skills to get you to a championship.
Yeah. I think you're spot on with it, Brad. The human element, I think, is there. I'm not going to discount how the tech is helping us, right?
For sure.
I
For
can
sure.
use tech to be able to speed through some of these mundane
For sure.
processes that we used to do. But again, if I'm doing it with the right disposition, I'm again, I look at my two personas. Am I improving the experience for those two personas? Did I give a better experience for the talent? Were they communicated? Did I eliminate their black hole? Do they know where they are next? And does my hiring manager know who, what, when, how they're going to get their work done? If those things keep to be my focus, all of the stuff that we talk about should just dial in to continue to push that to be at its best it can possibly be. I love the agent mentality. And I think that anybody, no matter what your skill set is, should have a good quality agent in your corner. You should have somebody to be that trusted advisor. Remember, we talked about it's like one of the two most stressful things is to find a job, right? Oh, wouldn't it be a relief if you had somebody in your corner that was walking through this with you besides you on your own? And anybody that's looking for a job today, I can guarantee you those dark, dark days where you're like, I am on my own. Nobody cares. I don't even know what to do next, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do. Be that.
And you painted that analogy though. You said it was finding a house and finding your next job, right? You have a realtor who calls you and says, listen, these 4 are in your budget. Maybe a couple are a little outside your budget. Maybe you got to shoot here a little bit higher than you wanted to. Some are under budget, but I found these opportunities for you. I did that work for you. We have the framework. We just need to make sure that we're living it.
Bingo. Live it. Well, we could probably make a bumper sticker out of
that. We could. Paul, if I had a bumper sticker operation over here, man, for some of the one-liners I come up with on this show, I'd be a wealthy man. Or only my car would have a ton of bumper stickers and no one else would buy them. But yes, you're exactly right. Paul, before I go to our rapid fire round, my friend, I want to give you the floor to share a little bit about yourself. If there's anybody listening who might be able to help you out on your journey, I want to make sure that they're available to do so. So go ahead. You got the floor again.
Jeez. Thanks, Brad. I've been in this industry a long time. I'll leave the dates out of it. You can figure out how old I am if you want to. We won't talk about that piece of it. But, what I do is I help organizations figure out how to find talent, right? I focus on those 2 experiences of the personas that we talked about. And I do that in such a way that helps organizations get better at what they're trying to do. My sole goal and what I try to do and what I've learned how to do is to walk into an organization, help them understand where their gaps are in their talent acquisition process and start to fill them. A long, long time ago, I was taught by a gentleman that integrity statement that I made, that trusted advisor statement, that's something that I started to latch hold of. And doing that, I've learned over time that You don't go into an organization try to sell them something, right? You go into an organization trying to understand them, right? I listen twice as much as I speak, right? And when I begin to understand that, then I help them understand how to buy what they need to fix the problem, right? So that's what I do. I have a huge passion for it. I have a huge passion for what HR tech is doing today. I have informed two different pieces of technology already under that user experience, both talent and hiring manager, and I get the space. But at the end of the day, I'm just passionate about finding great people to go to work into great organizations, and if I can facilitate that, amen. And there's a whole lot of passion for what's next in the industry. That's a whole nother podcast with you, Brad. We can talk about that, about where that's going to go. But that's kind of who I am.
Very good. And quickly, our rapid fire round, one book that has fundamentally changed your life.
Yeah. It's a shameless plug, but I've read this book. Oh man, 15 plus years ago. It's How to Sell Without Being a Jerk by John Clemson. And the reason why it stuck with me, it was a pivotal moment for me because I was a show up, throw up salesman, right? I just went in there and whatever I said or did was to get that individual to say yes to me, right? But I read the book and I actually became friends with John and I understand who he is. And I became friends with him because of what he wrote, right? And some of the things he talks about is what we already talked about. Your reputation is everything in this space, right? Lead with integrity, lead with honesty, lead with this authenticity that allows you to enter the space of being a trusted advisor. It's such an important element to be in this industry, right? Because there are a lot that are not, right? I also that I already told you once was like I have two ears and one mouth, and I should keep the ratio correct when I'm inside of an organization. So I should listen to an organization to understand who they are, what they're trying to do, where they're trying to go, and those types of things, right? I also know, and John, I think you've spoken to him before, but he really makes a point that words matter, right? Keep them in check. Make sure that the words that you share are words that are edifying and they make sense to individuals, right? And that the last thing that I think that really helped me, and it was actually just about an hour ago, I was coaching a young lady that's just getting into the staffing world, right? And she's like, Paul, I get all these no's. And I basically said, I learned something from this book. And I told her this book because I said, I'm about to talk about it. John has this phrase that he's coined about moving conversations forward. And I kept telling her, like, it's not no, it's just the next step. Right. So those are the things that just really stick with me. They just kind of entered my being and they just became part of the thread of how I operated. So that's a great book and it's a little shameless, but you should guys read it. It's quick, it's easy, and it's impact.
And if you want to listen to the episode with John Clemson, you can check that out by looking at your preferred podcast player. Again, search for Secrets of Staffing Success. You'll see that there. Or you can subscribe to the Haley Marketing YouTube channel and check out the conversation that I had with John where we talked about how to sell without being a jerk.
Yeah.
If you're a staffing owner planning to scale in 2026, listen closely. For more than 35 years, Tricom has partnered with staffing owners to support growth without adding unnecessary risk or back office burden. Tricom is not a factoring company. They're an asset-based lender and full-service back office partner building solutions tailored to your staffing business and cash flow needs. If growth is starting to create pressure around payroll, cash flow, or administration, Tricom provides the flexibility and operational support to help you expand with confidence. I trust their team and have known them for over a decade. To learn more, visit tricom.com and request a conversation to see how they support your staffing business. All right, let's get back to the show.
And Paul, before I let you go, one more question. One piece of advice that you would give to somebody just starting in staffing and recruiting. What are you going to tell them?
Takes a lifetime to build trust. Takes about 5 minutes to lose it. Just be really careful, right? Be really careful how you walk. Never compromise your integrity because it's really easy in this industry to do that because of how it's structured. And I think that I always look at it, take the time, slow down and understand inside of this space when you're in front of a customer, what do they need? Listen to them. that will pay dividends for you. You may not get that deal, but you'll get the next one. It makes a difference. It does. So, I mean, I could probably sit there and spout wisdom quips really fast, but anyway, I think those are things that are there, right? It's there's one last thing that I talk about too. And this is when I went on the buy side, for about almost 5 years. So I was buying contract labor inside of a Fortune 100 organization, right? And mind you, I carried a bag for 25 years before I went to that organization. And it was always show up, tell them your features and benefits, those types of things. And it was always, how do I add value to them, right? One of the things I began to understand is they don't need me to add value. They need me to create value. So if you're selling into an organization, look at how you create value. And that I can unbundle that. I won't do it here because that's a whole nother conversation as well. But creating value, basically, the difference is instead of just having them buy something that you're selling, you're creating value by sharing it with them and helping them understand what you can do for them. And then once they determine with your help what's the best piece of your product to engage, you're 10,000 miles farther down the road, right? You'll be very, very sticky, and that value creation, it'll stick. Anyway, I'm starting to babble on that. So anyway.
It's all good. He's Paul Petersen. Paul, appreciate taking the stage with me, my friend.
Brad, appreciate the time. Thank you, my friend. See ya.